Well, minions, we're here at last. The resolution of the cliffhanger and the battle to retake Thurmaster. When we left off, the team had decided to forego single combat, Aneshk the Paladin versus the leader of the mercenaries, and instead assault the town en masse. The pieces are on the board, minions. Let's see where this goes. As is our fashion, the sessions are recapped using the Order of the Stick Monster for Every Season cutout minis. The players: Claude as Dub, Neutral Good Dwarven Thief, level 8. Grant as Rotkill, Neutral Good Dwarven Fighter, level 7. Ron as Valletta, Chaotic Good Human Cleric of Tymora, level 7. Sean as Octavius, Chaotic Good Human Ranger, level 6. Les as Aneshk, Lawful Good Human Paladin of Lathander, level 6. Dave as Lee, Lawful Good Human Monk, level 6. NPC Retainers and Henchmen: Boris, Lawful Good Human Ranger, Henchman to Aneshk, level 5. Tyrano, Lawful Good Human Magic User, Henchman to Aneshk, level 3. Kelflin, Chaotic Good Half-Elf Fighter Cleric of Tymora, Henchman to Valletta, level 1-1. Plus the same group of 0-level meat shields and their sergeant. If they survive today, it may be worth learning some names, I suppose. Picking up immediately where the previous session concluded, the group launches their assault against the force occupying Thurmaster. Rotkill and Dub find a weak spot in Thurmaster's flimsy walls and begin to hack through with their axes, hoping to push through before any soldiers inside notice. Lee and Octavius's dog find the hole Dub had previously used to sneak into town. The dog squeezes through while Lee parkours his way over the wall. Aneshk and Octavius hammer the front gate attempting to breach, as well as deliberately draw attention away from the others' efforts. Valletta, Boris, Quipper, Kelflin, and the sergeant, plus one of the footmen, rush to scale the wall. Fine, since they're in the action, I'll learn these two names. Frobisher the sergeant and Killairn the heavy footman. Are you happy, minions? I've learned two names of meaningless peons. The sergeant aids Valletta, Boris, Quipper, and Kelflin as they use the rope of climbing to breach the wall, while 0-level archers stay back and aim at the gate guards. Inside, Lee spins around at blinding speed as per his monk abilities and spies Lord Taro behind a shield formation in the center of town. Lord Taro spots him, takes a shot with his heavy crossbow, and scores a palpable hit. But Lee rolls his saving throw versus paralysis, and with his success, snatches the bolt out of the air, again as per the monk's abilities. Lord Taro is visibly impressed. Dub and Rotkill breach the wall after successfully and efficiently hacking through a weak spot. Rotkill moves up to the front gate where he spots a well-armored enemy warrior with a maul, just waiting for something to clobber. Aneshk and Octavius manage to beat down the flimsy front gate, but the enemy mage is waiting and casts Stinking Cloud to block the front gate from being rushed. Both Paladin and Ranger are caught in the cloud. Rotkill, however, is immediately outside the window of the house where the mage is blockaded, and hears the casting. He alerts Dub, who in turn rallies Lee, and they rush to the door of the building, which they find is barred from within. The goon with the maul enters combat with Rotkill, and the fierce battle of two equally matched warriors begins. Using the rope of climbing, Valletta, Boris, Quipper, Kelflin, Frobisher the sergeant, and the heavy footman Killairn scale the wall and breach the town from their end. With some lucky rolls of the dice, Dub and Lee manage to smash the door off its hinges very quickly, and see the mage at the window. Initiative is his, however, and he casts a spell, vanishing from sight. Lee sprints in with a flying kick, scoring a hit even against the invisible enemy. Further, with a high enough roll to stun the mage and remove him from the equation. The dog also takes a chunk out of the mage. Dub moves in to help bind the wizard and take him prisoner, but another enemy in the room emerges from an invisible state, an assassin. The DM calls for a surprise roll, but it's not good, minions. The dice are with the bad guy this time, as he gains 3 segments of surprise. Remember in the last session how surprise works so well for the team? Well, minions, it is indeed a double-edged sword. The assassin has scored 3 segments of surprise, but Dub's dexterity of 16 means he has a +1 reaction adjustment, allowing him to reduce by 1 segment of surprise. Lee has a dexterity of 18, giving him a reaction adjustment of +3, meaning Lee negates all segments of surprise for himself and cannot be targeted during the surprise rounds. That still leaves 2 segments of action against Dub. The assassin attacks Dub with an assassination attempt. For reference, when attempting to assassinate during combat, the DM here requires an attack roll, success granting a chance on the assassination table. The first attack hits, the roll for assassination is made, but fails. Dub takes normal damage, but nothing more. The second attack also hits, and the assassination roll is made. Success. Dub falls to the assassin's blade. With surprise now over, the half-orc assassin turns his attention to Lee, but misses. Lee counterattacks, incapacitating him easily with a single open-hand attack, scoring a stun right out of the gate. Lee continues the barrage, but the stunned orc is no match for the monk and dog. Frobisher and Cairn arrive to aid. Meanwhile, outside, Lord Taro has adjusted his line of sight in an attempt to snipe at the enemy with his crossbow, but his aim fails over and over again despite his extensive skill. I've rarely seen the like, minions. You had to be there. The team certainly has someone looking out for them. Lord Taro is a 10th level fighter with a specialization in heavy crossbow. He also has a peon locking and loading his crossbows. With multiple crossbows locked and ready, he may increase his rate of fire, this being a 2nd edition rule ported over into this campaign. But not a single roll went higher than 6 minions. Well, except for one earlier roll against the monk, but his monk ability deflected that one. Quipper, Valletta, and Kelfin advance on the shield formation, as the evil cleric is among them. Initiative is diced, and a tie is scored. Valletta is casting Silence, while the enemy cleric is casting Hold Person. Both have a 5-segment casting time, so will be cast at the same moment. The Hold Person fails to catch Quipper and Kelfin due to Quipper's Ring of Free Action, and Kelfin's successful save. Valletta casts Silence to prevent further spells from the enemy cleric. Quipper, now under control of Claude, annihilates the 6 heavy footmen comprising the shield wall in a single round, thanks to the Mook rule, which grants warriors 1 attack per level of experience against opponents with less than a full hit die. Rotkill is locked in melee with a maul-wielding goon, and the dice are with him as he whittles down the fierce fighter, taking the odd lick, but avoiding serious injury to himself. After helping Lee bind the mage, Frobisher and Cairn charge Lord Taro's peon crossbow loader, who takes a shot at them as they approach. The sergeant kills the peon in the charge, but not before Cairn is felled by a crossbow bolt. I told you, minions, there's no point in learning the names of the 0 levels. Hey. In the next round, initiative favors the enemy, and the evil cleric quaffs a potion just as Valletta casts his own hold spell, which succeeds. She is frozen in place, but to their surprise, she lifts off the ground even in her paralyzed state and flies away, taking some arrow fire as she goes, but not enough to kill her. Lord Taro has moved his men into melee with Rotkill and his maul-wielding goon, but Octavius and Aneshk have pulled themselves from the stinking cloud and recovered to join the fray. Rotkill slays the goon, while the 0-level footmen are easily bested by the rest of the team. Lord Taro's rolls in melee don't favor him. He misses every strike, despite a very good Thaco rating. The players are absolutely stunned by their luck in this battle. As am I, minions. I was expecting a battle royale with bloody deaths on both sides, but this DM's dice rolls are abysmal. With his minions dead, it's now Lord Taro versus the 4 warriors, Aneshk, Octavius, Rotkill, and Quipper. Licks are traded back and forth, with Taro proving a tough opponent defensively, but his attacks fail over and over. The DM rolls morale for Lord Taro, but now the dice hold and his fanaticism takes him, as he calls to his Lord Ace-Erik that he will be joining him soon. With a sustained barrage, the team ultimately fells him without taking any damage at all. With the battle over, the townsfolk emerge. The occupation is over. It was a glorious victory, but they did lose 2, the retainer Cairn and their dwarven thief Dub. They truss up the prisoner Mage and turn their attention to Lord Taro's body. Since the evil priestess of Ace-Erik wanted the body for some purpose, they elect to chop it into pieces before burning it and spreading the ashes. A discussion is had about Dub. The high priest of the Temple of Lathander in Evening Star is capable of raising the dead. They'd have to get Dub to the temple within 9 days. Lee volunteers to take the body back. Boris and 2 of the retainers go with them. With the death of Dub and the departure of Lee, our fine tradition of the contrived character entrance sees the arrival of Claude as Bink, neutral good half-elven fighter magic user thief, level 334. Dave as Daryl, lawful good human paladin of Lathander, level 4. These new characters are already acquainted with the team, being previously established as part of the player's stable of characters. They arrive on the scene, and seeing the aftermath of the battle, help where they can. The group speaks to the enemy mage, whose name is Ignacio. Based on information gleaned, they determine that he isn't necessarily evil. He pleads for clemency based on being misled about the intent of his employers, and offers his services as compensation for any trouble. While they are tempted by his proposal, as his skills seem very solid, Quipper pulls Aneshka aside and points out that while his story might be true, he also had the ability to leave at any time, and instead opted to stay with Lord Taro during the occupation and the fight against the Liberators. Aneshka and team ultimately decide to keep him bound and take him to Lord Palfrey for judgment, as he's the local ruler and that's within his purview. After assembling the spoils of battle and making sure the people of the town are secure, the team departs for Lord Palfrey's keep with the prisoner in tow. Along the way, Bink uses his read magic spell to decipher Ignacio's spellbook, noting the goodies within. After that, the session concludes. Another gimme for Team Goody-Good minions, but the dice are fickle, and one has to wonder how long their luck will hold. It wasn't entirely lucky, though. Dub did fall to the assassin's blade. But really, looking at the stats of these enemies and the sheer unbelievably low rolls on the DM's part, one can't help but be bewildered. The capricious nature of the dice aside, let's look at what happened. The enemy had a fortification, albeit a very weak one. Thurmaster is a proverbial craphole, in a state of disrepair, not difficult to breach. Lord Taro's team was strong enough to fight, and should have provided a challenge to the group, but the group made decent plans and used their abilities wisely. Lord Taro didn't use the citizens as human shields, which was a complication the players were worried about. Many other villains would have. But there were some specific reasons that may yet become relevant in the scenario, so we won't delve into that exploration in this video, so as to avoid potential spoilers. Sending the monk to hunt the wizard down is the best use of his ability, given his blinding speed and extreme effectiveness against lightly armored targets. Attacking from different fronts to keep the limited number of enemy forces focused on one thing at a time was also a good move. Lord Taro's plan didn't quite work out, fortifying the mage who, FYI minions, did have a fireball spell ready to go. With an invisible assassin to protect him was good, but who could have foreseen that the luck of the PC's dice would have them batter down a strong and barred door with one go? Even a single round of delay would have meant the mage could have slipped away to another location. With a ring of free action in play, the enemy cleric's hold spell was negated. Now, the DM here, of course, knew that the players had this trinket, but that doesn't necessarily mean the enemy knows. The whole player knowledge versus character knowledge consideration should also apply to the DM and NPC's minions. The battle with the cleric had a funny conclusion. Again, the will of the dice. In 1st edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, quaffing potions has an onset time. In this case, the cleric drank a potion of flying, which her initiative roll allowed her to consume before Valletta's hold person spell hit her. The DM ruled here that, while she was held rigid, the fly spell allows her independent movement, so she was still able to fly away in a paralyzed state. A funny visual that had the table chuckling. This also serves to make this cleric of Ace-Erik a possible recurring villain. After all, they never did discover why she was intent on a worthy corpse. With a small force of 0 levels, the warrior characters got to use the Mook rule to great effect. That rule being that fighter classes gain 1 attack per level of experience against any creature with less than a full hit die. That rule is always a great one to behold in a game, minions. Warriors really get to have some epic kill counts. Really, I sometimes don't understand DMs who scale all of the enemies to suit the player's level and deprive them of such a wonderful class feature. But I digress. Quipper really proved to be a valuable asset again. MVP NPC award goes to the Ranger with the Anger. Lord Taro. What a disappointment. A 10th level warrior with full plate armor and a magic sword should really have carved this team up like a roast. And that's not even mentioning that he was a specialist with heavy crossbows. Heavy crossbow specialists treat anything within 60 feet as point blank, and specialist attacks at point blank do +2 to damage, then doubled. His effective THAC0 with a crossbow is 8, and yet nothing could connect. Amazing. I guess that means the D&D gods have something else in mind for the players. This run of luck can't last forever, even with a Cleric of Tymora in the group. The greater the height, the harder the fall, minions. Turning to our one PC casualty today, the Dwarven Thief Dub. He fell to the assassination table from the DMG. I've seen various conversations about how this is to be played, including advice from Gary Gygax in the DMG about how assassins should require meticulous planning. Personally, I like the idea of an assassin being able to pull off an instant kill in combat, but it must be balanced. So, for this campaign, the methodology of assassination and backstab is such. Backstab can be done any time the thief or assassin is on the rear of an opponent. Full stop. No need for surprise, but surprise will get you an additional +2 to strike. This is all by the book in the PHB. Assassination, on the other hand, can only be done in melee combat if the assassin has surprise. The DM here requires an attack roll, and success means that the assassin gets a roll on the table for the instant kill. Failure to achieve the instant kill still yields normal damage. The assassin can make as many attempts as they have attacks during surprise. The assassin here was successfully hidden, increasing their surprise range to 1 in 4 on d6. Although, granted, Lee the monk was in play, so his superior chance to avoid surprise should also have been used. But with everything going on, both the players and DM forgot this, and normal dice were used. Properly speaking, the correct way to have handled surprise with the monk in play would have been to roll percentage. When non-standard surprise dice are used, you must convert to the percentage, then divide the roll by 16.66% to find the number of segments. Lee's ability means that he's only surprised 24% of the time instead of the standard 33% of the time. But since Assassin's invisibility increased the surprise chances by 33%, Lee would have had a 57% chance of being surprised by the assassin, still an improvement from the 66% chance anyone else could have been surprised. I'll be covering the procedures more thoroughly in my upcoming video series on 1st edition combat minions. Stay tuned. As a result of the surprise, the assassin was able to take Dub out. On the flip side, a monk versus an assassin in a straight-up fight is curtains for the assassin, every time. I see a lot of hate from monks, but punch for punch, they will dominate against lightly armored enemies almost every time. One can't help but admire the efficiency. Luckily for the dwarf, the Temple of Lathander in Evening Star has a priest capable of raising the dead, but it's far away. Can Lee get Dub to the church on time? That answer won't come for a couple of sessions, minions. The battle for Thurmaster is complete, and as easy as the players had it, some fun stuff has been set up. The evil cleric of Ace-Erik escaped, but the significance of this new cult of Ace-Erik is becoming more and more of an issue. Thurmaster is now open to them as a base, especially as they consider tackling the giants of the Shrieken Mire. Plus, they now owe Quipper a favor, so we'll see what task he has in mind for them. I estimate that this campaign is roughly 2/3 of the way through the first book in the Night Below saga. Team Evil covered the whole Ranchifus hunt in the first 13 episodes, leaving this group to deal with the rest. It's a fairly open-world scenario as well, even though there is an overarching plot. But this group is on the right path, and I suspect they will be on track sooner rather than later. They came into the scenario leveled, so as we're seeing, there's no fear that they're overmatched by events. And I look forward to seeing how the group interacts with the scenario further. Well, minions, I shall leave you here. There are many more sessions coming, so stay tuned as the Night Below campaign continues. Ta for now.